Hello, everyone. Today I had the privilege of speaking with David Crutchfield, who is the City Commissioner for the Dothan City Commission District 6. Anyway, we had a fascinating conversation about some of his biographical story of how he came into that role, what he's been doing since he's been there, that some of the challenges with which that you face interacting and working with others in city government with whom you may not always agree. Requires character and conscience and knowing what your own thoughts are on the matter. But also you've got to get along with others in the same sandbox. We talked about some of the details that city government has to address in terms of economic growth, opportunity, and just the flow of traffic around town. Things for which the correct solution isn't always obvious and requires exceptional wisdom. Anyway, join us for this journey. I really appreciate you coming and talking to me.
Sure.
I find my parishioners have given me feedback saying that they really enjoy the conversations that are talking about the everyday things.
Okay.
Because my argument is that this supposed line between sacred and secular is always a little weird. This is the sacred time that we have at the church. That's where my spirituality is. That's where my faith happens. But the secular world, where the roads are paved and politics happens and things, well, that's just the nitty gritty outside stuff. And I always think, no. I think God's concerned about that too.
Sure.
And
Sure.
So I really like to address those things and talk through it in a way so that, because I really think the people of God ought to care.
Should.
And so that's why I show up at the city commission.
I appreciate you doing that too.
Because
it's the only way to learn is to do that and
Right.
some other things. And I don't know if that'll come up in here, but there's many programs that you can go through. And I think I've mentioned to you about the Dothan 101.
I'm doing that. Last night.
Okay. Yeah.
Last night we were.
Okay.
Last night I was at the
Waste
Public
Water-
Works.
Okay.
Public
Yeah.
Works with Tommy
Vincent.
Wright,
Okay. Yeah.
and they made a little street sign for every one of us. Also, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. I think my wife got one.
Oh, really?
I went through it 20 years ago. Before I ever got into this, I served on I've lived here a long time, but I was on the rec board.
Okay.
And so I went through it. It was amazing, the stuff. And so I'm now in the FBI Citizens Academy.
Okay.
I've got one more week, and I hope to graduate. I hope to next Tuesday.
I heard about that while we were the week when we were over at the safety training area. We're dealing with the fire department.
I saw the group there. I don't know if I saw you.
Oh gosh, that was my opportunity to play because I was rappelling off their tower and
look at you.
Fighting Well, I've had 17 years as a fire chaplain.
Oh, somebody was who was telling me that the other day? Somebody was just telling me that. I cannot remember.
Right.
I was telling them you were behind the fire station, and they told me that that's what you had done.
And I have a passion for the fire service as a result.
May have been Vincent. Vincent who's running the program. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so knowing that, they let me do their car fire training. They put that on fire and then rappel down the side, and they're like, I think this priest looks like he's done this before. It's because I trained with my firefighters everywhere I've gone.
Did you? That's great.
And wrote a lot of calls with them too. Yeah. So I've seen all that as well.
Seen some bad things probably then, I guess.
Well, it taught me a lot about God and people that I wouldn't have otherwise learned from seminary. Right. And so that's why this church has a real passion or real affection for the fire service. In fact, every week we have prayers that we in our prayer list of things that we focus on. We have a rotating prayer for a different station every week.
Okay.
And so this week is station 1, and I try to visit the various shifts of that station on that week, just to let them know. I know you're going to have calls sometimes where it's easy to forget that God's with you on these. And I just want to show up and remind you that He is.
That's great.
And I
appreciate you doing that. I didn't know anybody was doing that.
Well, again, we love them. I have a great affection for them. For me, that's also what's got me interested in local city politics, because this is a spiel I've given so many times, people get tired of it. But I've oftentimes said that when I was writing with fire departments on their calls, I discovered that every 911 call starts with prayer, whether people are conscious of it or not. When the emergency unfolds, somewhere deep in the brain, they scream, "God help me."
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a call center and a dispatch and a tone and an apparatus and personnel. But those are just the logistics of getting their prayer answered.
Mm-hmm.
So when I ride with them and I show up on the scene, the people there, I can see it in their body language as their shoulders kind of slump, like, a weight's been falling off their shoulders, because they see in their mind, they're watching God answer their prayer, because here the personnel shows up in their apparatus ready to handle address the emergency, however that's going to unfold. And having witnessed that, I can tell you that a lot of ministers go their entire career, don't get a chance to watch prayer answered in real time that way.
Never really thought of it that way. You're right. That is.
And so I got spoiled over time
Right.
in East Texas, in east of Dallas, Houston, and then Central Florida. I really got spoiled being able to be with firefighters and watch these miracles, the unspectacular miracles unfold of watching someone's prayer be answered, even at times when the firefighters themselves might not be sure that was a successful call. I had a fatality in Central Florida where the gentleman who went to my church had a massive heart attack on a Saturday night. And then by Sunday morning, a couple of days later, I went and saw him at the hospital. They later on had to pull the plug because they couldn't get brain activity back. But his widow turned to me and she said, "Father, could you find everyone on that call and tell them," these are her words, "how much they were God's grace deployed to me in that tragedy." From the lady she talked to on the phone all the way through everyone who showed up to take. And I just saw things different. And so as a result, what I call the unspectacular miracles are all the city services that come together.
It's a lot to make that work.
Paved roads, water in the hydrant, electricity, GPS that can direct them there. All sorts of layers that people love to complain about are suddenly come together to answer this person who's screaming out, "God help me."
I've not witnessed it from the vehicle side. I've witnessed it from being at my parents' house.
Oh, wow.
And having to call multiple times for my dad.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Through diabetes, heart, you name it, kind of, and watch that headache. So pretty much it was my mom calling. And I got there sometimes before the police and fire, because I'm not that far. Do we need to get started on that?
No. I'm recording. I'm just making sure that it's always operating correctly.
Great. Okay.
Sorry
No. So I saw those, and I mean, I couldn't pay enough.
Right.
In what we, taxes and everything that goes toward paying that, you cannot, you don't appreciate it until you need it. And I've gotten a lot of compliments from my friends who actually had heart attacks.
Right.
And said I'd be dead. They showed up so quickly, and when I can hear the sirens respond that quickly, it gives, like you say, your shoulders, you just
exactly right. They heard
kind
me.
Of thing. So, and that person that made the call too, it's just it's amazing that's there. I don't think I could live. I don't know a lot of people like to live rurally and things, but you give up some of that quick response time. And I'm the people that are volunteer firemen, whatever. I'm grateful for them. But it is a volunteer.
Well, that's
and
something.
It takes longer to get there. You've got to get from where you're at to get to the vehicle, to get to the whatever. And so this is a tremendous service.
I live out in the county, past outside of the normative response district response area of Station 4.
Okay. And
so Hodgesville Volunteer Fire Department. I've never seen it manned. I'm sure that those people all have jobs.
But they do, yeah.
They all have jobs.
They got to.
Exactly. And so I've been curious as to, for a time, how the county addresses that. How what are their means by which that the volunteer fire departments in Houston County are supported in some way. I'm very curious about that. But ultimately, I'm curious about the sacred tasks that are being performed in the unspectacular roles of city government.
Yeah, and they are. I mean, and there's so those areas that are rural volunteers, can ask for mutual aid,
right?
And we give a lot of that, not just to those, but to our city's Wiregrass area,
right?
Which is another thing that's great about this community, is that we treat it as a Wiregrass, not just what's best for Dothan,
right?
So what good things for Dothan can happen in Daleville, Enterprise, Ozark, Wicksburg, Rehoboth, whatever.
Right.
It all is one big community, and I think we've done a great job, and I know the mayor has, of trying to treat it that way, and not saying, hey, we want everything right here because it'll happen. Things happen for Dothan just because of the has developed through the years with the hospitals and the shoppings and the restaurant. Now, other folks are starting to get some of those other things to understand their community, but the hospitals, I mean, that's just a huge draw.
Yeah, right. It's a natural center of gravity here.
It is. And then some of the other, the sporting facilities, the recreational type things that are here that we developed through the years, it's amazing. I mean, I go to other communities, and this is great. I mean, you can find just about anything you want that either costs nothing or $1 or $2.
Right.
And so it's amazing. I have friends and family that will move here and come here and say, you only have to pay what to go swimming? A couple dollars, and it only cost me this to play in a sports team, and they're used to paying 3 or 4 times that. So
exactly,
we're somewhat spoiled on that.
Right.
And when you have to get down to the true cost sometimes and move some of those fees up, it hurts because we've kind of been spoiled for a long time. And me too. I've lived here a long time.
Mayor Sliva referred to being kind of in that sweet spot where you're just big enough to offer the type of services that one would expect of an urban center, but also you'll still be small enough that it's a good place to raise a family.
That's correct.
And so you're kind of in that sweet spot. And how to navigate that, because you always want to encourage more business. You want to encourage that economic opportunity and growth without losing its character.
That's correct.
Along the way.
That's correct. And that's when we talked a little earlier about the growth and things and changes, and that's what you fight.
Right.
I've always had, there's only been a couple of cars on my road, and now there's hundreds of cars on my road because of the new subdivision. So I take that as good because people are coming here to live. My favorite thing is when our kids can come back here and find work in schooling and churches and things to do. That when I grew up here, there wasn't a lot. There was not. People didn't want to come back and live in this community. So we've grown at a good rate, not too fast, not too slow, so that we're able to keep up with that. And it just makes me proud that I've had one of my sons has been able to move back, and I never thought that would happen.
So what was your evolution like? I mean, in terms of you've lived here for quite some time, but then what was the process by which you began kind of into city politics and now find yourself District 6, correct?
Correct.
City Commission District 6.
Right.
So if you could just kind of share a little bit of that evolution. I mean, I argue to my parishioners all the time that clergy need to kind of stay independent of government, but Christians do not. And so we'd like to inspire more people whose conscience have been formed in the body of Christ to go make a difference out in the world.
Right.
So if I had a parishioner, I don't right now, but if I had a parishioner who's like, I'm thinking about, I'd like to make a difference in this capacity in city government, in county, whatever, what that would look like, I would hope that they could kind of listen to your a little bit of your story and go, okay, I think I could. That's something of a inspirational template to. I think I could do that too. Yeah. I want to kind of not interrupt you and allow you.
Yeah. So I had no aspirations to be in any kind of political or government. My closest was working for the city when I was in high school and college. Worked with the recreation department. Got whatever. I went through that. Finished college.
Where'd you go to college?
Went to Alabama.
Right. Yeah. That's right. You were telling me about Alabama days. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's it. Yeah. So did that, came back, and I loved recreation, but the pay was not very good. And so that was one of my first career mistakes. I would be well retired by now, and the salaries have gone up. So I didn't. So I knew something about how the city worked because, worked in recreation, and you still had to interact with other departments to get things done, which is another great thing the city does. The departments work together to help each other. So I went through life, did my thing and whatever, and probably, I don't know, maybe 11 years ago, I got hit up by a current commissioner at the time, John Ferguson.
Okay.
There was going to be an opening. The District 6 commissioner had moved to another district, and there was going to be a special election.
Interesting.
About a year and a half left on that person's term. And so I knew John through, I knew him, but I knew him through my dad. John was a guy that would go to Ray's, which is a great place if you've never been, Ray's Restaurant, and there's a table there called the Table of Knowledge.
Okay.
And so it's all different ages, could be a little older, but there's different ages there. And so John was a regular, and my dad had been going there for 40 or 50 years. And so they were talking one day, and my dad mentioned to John I was pretty conservative. And John is conservative on what we do with money and being fiscally responsible. So he reached out to me and said, "Hey, you need to run for this." I said, "I don't want to do that. I don't need those headaches. I already have a full-time job, and I had just been at this job about 2 years. I'd worked with a phone company for about 27.
Okay.
And that just kind of worked its way out as phone companies have.
Okay.
So I'm with this new company, and I'm like, I don't have time. I have my family. I have other things that I was doing. And so I guess it just hit me. I prayed about it, talked to John about it, and was like, I like helping people and connecting people, and I kind of know how the city somewhat works.
Okay.
And I just said, I think I'll give this a try. And so I, put my name in the hat, figured out how all that worked. Got a couple of friends that helped me run my campaign. I had no idea how to do that. All the rules, make signs, get on some shows, and I don't even know if I had a billboard. I'm not sure. Put something in the paper. The paper was still going back then, and that got me going. And I was in an election with another individual and won, and I had to learn how all this worked. And working together with total of seven people,
right,
that each got an individual vote on things, and realizing that my opinion could be different than others sometimes, and it doesn't always end up the way I think it should be. And probably they thought the same thing when it didn't go their way. So that's when I started, kind of going and just have to turn things over and to ask God, what is your will here? Don't let me don't let me do what I think is right. Let me help me, guide me, and when I still think I'm right, and it doesn't turn out my way, help me deal with that. Deal with the things that in our life that don't go that way. There's a lesson probably in there to be learned.
I know. So that level of connectivity in terms of who's able to advise you, people help with the campaign, I'm sure, I hate to say this, I mean, this adds to some of our cynicism about politics, but I mean, there are certain people you must get to know in terms of funding a campaign, how things are done, and what wheels are greased. Did those connections occur organically, or did you have to be proactive about any of that?
Well, I had some folks that when I said I was going to run, that kind of helped me and came to me and kind of said, "Hey, you need to go talk to these folks and whatever." And the best part of that was that I didn't feel like I should spend my own money to do these things, but I also didn't want to I just wanted to have enough to pay for what was going on that. And so the best part was sitting down with people. Some of them I'd known a long time. Some of them I knew. They were, had been in Dothan a long time. And none of them put any conditions with, here's a few $100s to help you or whatever. And of course, these are checks, and it's all listed in the paper and all these things of who gave what. And to this day, none of those people have come back and said, "I gave you money. Here's what I want and need." So and it's been really refreshing, I guess, because you hear about that. Father Aaron gave me $500. Now here's what I want you to do. I need my road paved. I need this zoning changed or whatever.
Oh gosh.
And they have it. And some of them are upfront about saying, "Hey, I'm not going to come to you," and they kept their word. And some of those folks that were donated to me, I've had to make decisions that didn't go in their favor because I was doing what I thought was right, and they have still supported me through the years. So that's that answers your question.
Well, no, I mean,
that could happen. I could see where somebody donates, and that seems to work.
Quid pro quo is a difficult thing to actually resist too, especially if you develop friendships in a close knit circle.
Sure.
I've been in situations before where it's extremely difficult to be the minority view, and just you're like, I don't want to alienate anybody, but to the degree that each person is entrusted with conscience, you've got to be able to, at the end of the day, explain to God what your process was.
That's it. So I look a lot at setting precedent. When you do something for somebody, if they're your friend,
right,
then you should be able to do that for everybody. And so that's what I try to treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
And there's multiple examples of that through the city where things are happening and it could involve city dollars to help and do and whatever kind of thing. So I try to treat it as much as I can, fairly, not based on you're my friend, I've known you for 40 years.
Right.
You should be the one I could tell honestly, if you're my real friend,
right.
what I think. And I've got a lot of good friends like that I can actually have an honest conversation. We can disagree.
Yeah.
We can shake hands, hug, whatever, and still be okay. And that's a true friend.
That seems that's both refreshing, but also seems odd. The all the ads that are running right now on television.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to admit, I'm watching some ads sometimes, and how someone's running for office X and how they describe themselves and how they describe their opponent. And my mind thinking, there's this commandment from Exodus 20. It says, "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." There seems to be no exceptions or fine print in that in case you're running for political office.
You're right. So I guess for me,
so how to maintain those friendships? You're like, but
it is, and I see that all the time, and it just is ugly. Luckily, the campaign I had wasn't that way.
Right.
And I don't think I would just say, here, you take it.
Right.
I don't want to get into that. Even if I know that somebody has done so, I just think I need to run on what I've done or what I think I can do to treat everybody fairly and just be a good conduit for what city services are out there, which are a lot. And you've seen them. And
of
we
course.
talked about the Dothan 101. Those things are available. A lot of people just don't know that. Just make a call, and maybe they've called and nobody answered, they didn't return their call right. So, I get a lot of calls of fellow commissioners too, and it's just connecting people, doing that conduit is what I like, and that's my favorite part about this. When I can say, hey, wait a minute, I know this can happen. It's the way we treat everybody.
Right.
Let me just find out why somebody didn't call you back or why they didn't show whatever, and to do it. And sometimes the answer is we can't do that, but at least get them to talk to somebody, and I try to follow up with them to make sure that they got an answer. The answer might not be what they want, and I've had plenty of those, because there's a lot of folks would like to have everything handled, but we don't all want to pay what it would cost, whether that be taxes or fees or whatever, to have all that stuff happen. There's that line somewhere in there.
I know that is like here's what I'd like to have from my local services, and I wanted to do so on a shoestring budget, but with excellence and all the equipment necessary and state of the art machinery to make sure that we are the place to brag about. The community. I was just last night interacting with Tommy Wright in their all their public services related to the technology in their traffic system and the analysis that's gone into thoroughfares and how getting people around the city. And he was claiming that this might be one of the least ones we would attend, and I disagree with him strongly because as an archaeologist, I studied a lot in terms of ancient urban planning and how thoroughfares and throughways were designed through areas to increase traffic for that type of settlement that they wanted to achieve. We had a little conversation about the road diet that's right downtown. And I couldn't believe how timely that conversation was because, of course, I wake up this morning and on the news is something about how the commission is, it seemed to be a hot button issue about the city commission, whether or not they've approved its extension and what that's all about. I wanted to bring that up because I was hoping how you might speak about one of the challenges in working in a 7-panel group with which there might be disagreements, but they have to be collegiate and professional.
That's why I try to keep it on that because there are disagreements. There's disagreements on the road diet right now. So try to keep that professional and within is the way I like to do it, and not put things on social media, or anything that really just because you want that cohesiveness, even when you disagree. And I've been through many of those in my 10-ish years here. Some that still, I just totally disagree with some folks' opinions. But that's the way the world is on that. So my issue is just trying to get past it. Again, we talked about earlier, when you think you're right, but either you're not, or you didn't make your point good enough, or you're just not going to win that discussion.
Can I ask your thoughts on? I was fascinated by the road diet, and for anyone who hears this who doesn't know what that means, the changing the number of lanes going through the downtown as a means of incentivizing specific traffic versus incentivizing some specific traffic through downtown, or incentivizing that same traffic to use the circle to go around Dothan in its industrial capacity, like major large 18-wheeler trucks and so forth. The argument that I heard from the city, from the public works director, Tommy Wright, was that the experiment is to incentivize trucks to use the circle. It might add maybe a minute or two to going, if they're coming from Montgomery and they're going to, Georgia or Mariana, if they're heading south. Right. But it's 1 minute or two on the big rig truck versus the type of traffic and business you're trying to attract downtown. Right. And on the one hand, it was difficult to object to something like that in terms of a city making decisions. Again, archaeologically, there's a long precedent for urban planning making decisions on what manner of traffic you want going through where. However, the conversation on the news, the topic was one of transparency. Was there enough conversation in order to achieve about this, in order to achieve a group decision? I wanted to possibly get your thoughts about it.
No, I mean, I always tend, what you mentioned of trying to get the big truck. So for my 10 years, that's one of the number one issues that comes up. How do y'all stop the truck traffic? So if anybody doesn't know, that's a state road.
Right.
We cannot put up signs on a state road that says no trucks allowed. We can do it on our city roads. They're up on Westgate Parkway in sections of it. And then we can enforce that. Local traffic is okay, but there's not many log trucks that are local traffic that are going downtown. They're going from one side of town to the other. So to do that, to calm the area down there, we're investing a lot of money down there. We want to make it walkable, safe area. And so when you look at all the results of what we did, we did the studies. Tommy had already checked that. It takes about a minute or so more to go around the circle.
Right.
It's slowed down through town a little bit. It takes now, there were different estimates depending on the time of day or whatever. So maybe it takes 10 to 30 seconds longer to go through town. Okay. It also added turn lanes. We only had one small, very narrow, scary turn lane on the Foster Street. We've added a turn lane now for a bigger turn lane for Foster, one for St. Andrews, and one for Museum on there. So those cars now that are going to turn are not blocking traffic in the past, and that was one of the objectives too, was to somebody's going to turn left they're in a straight or turn lane, so all the traffic behind them now wants to get out, move, and go, and we were having some accidents here. So overall, to me, it was safety. And the results of it were, we may have had a 10% reduction in cars.
Okay.
It slowed it down some. You had the big trucks were anywhere between 30 and 60% less.
Okay.
So they were going other way. So that was the objective.
Yeah.
That was one of the objectives there. And then I put a lot on our traffic engineer, who I pretend to be a traffic engineer, but I'm not really one. I give him tips all the time where we talk about this and that light.
Right.
And so but I don't pretend to know. There's always another reason why we're doing something. So I put a lot on our public works director, who is Tommy Wright, and a traffic engineer as well, on what his opinion is. And then I took the time to talk to police and fire to find out, hey, is this affecting y'all? Because you'll see things on social media. It's taking twice as long. It's and so Their opinion, it was not.
Okay.
Actually made it, there was some room on the edges now for cars to get over because we narrowed it up a little bit. So I just look at all those, and I just look at the two different ways. And David's opinion was that it was safer the way it is with the road diet.
Okay.
And I've lived here a long time. You're limited space, so you can't add the turn lanes and have two straight lanes.
That's true.
There's not enough room to do it. So that just that was just my process on that.
Right.
And there's differences of opinions on that, but I like to look at the results, the stats, and look at what our department head, who is the expert at that. So, in my opinion, really is that we should leave those decisions up to those department heads. So I don't make utility decisions. I don't make planning decisions and all these different departments. I don't tell them what to do. So I feel like I know early on we were going to get a say in that. So, and that's how that started. That everybody would have a say, and that's the way it's going to be. But I wish we had done it with what our department heads say, because they are our experts.
And I watched the news in the morning, and the objection that arose was, and this rhetoric may be accurate or not, I don't know, but the terms that were used was, well, their concern was about transparency because they didn't like backdoor conversations happening when they want a more transparent process. In my mind, I thought, okay, I hear you. Everyone likes transparency in government, but however, they also want less bureaucratic things that seem to gum up works a lot when you could simply do this easily. And so one person who you've entrusted to handle this could get it done in a shorter amount of time, versus if everything has to be brought up for a vote and has to go back through the loop of a public forum again. And so it wasn't obvious to me what the solution is there, but I know that you can't. No government at scale, smaller or larger, is going to get things done if they must vote on every single item. You're going to entrust some to do their job.
Yeah, that's what I wish we had approached it when maybe we had taken from the beginning there. But it was a controversial topic to start with because it's change of that. And so I don't know. I listened to folks, not just my constituents, because I like to serve the entire city, not just District 6. And so I listened to those. I reached out to those that had negative comments to try to talk to them to find out really what it was. Because a lot of folks will just, it doesn't matter if it's that topic or anything, like, I hate it. Okay, why do you hate it, and what is wrong with it? I've gotten older, so it changed. Yeah, changed. You moved my cheese, and and so I am big on safety. So I have gone back through my life and looked at the things around the city well before I was in any kind of government role that I disagreed with when they did it. And the majority of times I was wrong. And so I'll admit it. I didn't like when we went to once a week garbage pickup. We used to have twice a week. I could put as many cans as I wanted out. I'm like, this is going to be awful. It's going to be terrible. Now we have standard cans. It looks much nicer. It's a good sized can. So once a week is fine. I was wrong. And same thing with some of the ALDOT plans that they've had through the years, they're designed for safety. They're not designed to, I want to go across from Sam's to get to Publix. That was dangerous. Very dangerous. And so they realize, and so they're making those changes. And so that's kind of what I thought of the ideal with the road diet, is to make it safer, not as fast as possible. It's rough down there. And as we're trying to grow and we got people investing lots of money down there, I'd love to feel safer going across Main Street, because I want north and the south side to develop, and that's happening. So I don't want to stifle that.
Well, St. Andrews is not. I may be getting my streets wrong. Which one has all the shops on it?
North Foster.
North Foster is the one where that is pedestrian friendly. That's the place where someone's going to walk from shop to bookstore
Yeah.
to restaurant and so forth.
Mhm.
Well, that's something of a pedestrian-friendly island in the midst of a space that that isn't.
Right.
And so if you're trying to incentivize larger industrial traffic to go around, this is how you do that. But change, in the fire station, everyone used to tell me that the two things the firefighters complain about the most, that nothing ever changes and then something changed.
Something changed. So you get that a lot around town. We don't have it, and then there's like, why do we have another chicken place?
Exactly.
Or why, whatever. Like, I'm all for it when another Chick-fil-A wants to open, or anybody, kind of they're opening because they've studied, and people are buying chicken.
Right.
And kids, they love it, and so they keep opening. Of course, everybody wants these other, I would too,
Right.
Whataburger or
Right.
what are these other restaurants and things. And eventually we may get one if somebody's got enough money.
Right.
They get the franchise and they can open a Whataburger. Nobody's stopping. I don't think Whataburger is boycotting Dothan.
Yeah.
If you came in and wanted to open up, if Father Aaron said, "I want to open up a couple," and you had $5 million, then you could open a couple.
I want to know why when y'all are going to incentivize Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's
So,
talking about yeah,
I know, right?
I can hear it right now. Oh, we'd all be broke. I avoided those places forever, just because you go in and then you're hundreds of dollars down.
Oh, people you get register their wedding registry there.
I did not know
it's
that.
unbelievable.
Okay.
So what happens is that whenever we had someone who we needed to get a housewarming gift for somebody, we went to Buc-ee's. Because whatever it is, it's going to be the perfect housewarming gift is at Buc-ee's. So I was in the Philippines visiting my wife's family, and we were walking along the beach in one of their tourist traps in Boracay. And just to give you an idea of what a global market this can be. We're walking along the beach, and someone's walking by me. He's wearing a Bass Pro Shop ball cap. And he's someone who lives there. He's not a tourist. He's a local gentleman who is his own proprietor. But he's wearing a Bass Pro Shop hat and a Buc-ee's T-shirt.
There you go. Been to America.
Right. And I'm like, this is the Philippines. What are you doing? That and the one other time is we were standing by, I was in her hometown in the Philippines, and we're standing behind two Russian tourists struggling with their English in order to order coffee at a Starbucks in the Philippines. And I'm like, there's a good example of a global marketplace right there.
Right. That's exactly right.
But no, Buc-ee's is everywhere. And somehow I have to explain to people who come here to America, yes, one of the brands with which you'll get acquainted is a gas station that just promised clean bathrooms. So
and lots of them. I guess I didn't buy into that. But then when I finally did stop,
right.
I was like, oh my gosh.
What is it? Yes. It's an embassy. And so it's like...
It was,
I know.
and I had to stop. I had to I just go get my brisket sandwich and my drink and get out. Then you end up, with I got umbrellas, I got puzzles. You
have a tree stand before you're done and a fire pit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, they had it all right there. It's like almost like a Walmart with brisket sandwiches.
It's hilarious.
And beef jerky. And the jerky, any jerky.
And don't be on a diet and stop and get
oh
gas
my
there.
gosh, no.
So you're District 6, and that's northwest mostly of Dothan.
Yes.
And we have, but like you said, you're very familiar with what happens around Dothan as well.
Sure.
Not all Dothan is homogenous. It's not all the same.
No.
Different areas that are much more industrial, other areas that are much more residential.
Right.
I quickly got acquainted with all 9 of our stations while we're here, and so I go to each station and ask them, what has been your call volume and what do you handle? Yeah. 9 is mostly industrial areas, up where they are, and 5 and 5 as well. But over here, it's more a lot of residential, but a lot of the industry that's going on along the Montgomery Highway as well. And so, how is it as a county commission, as a city commissioner, how do you incentivize that? How do you interact with businesses, and what's your role in encouraging economic activity and advantages for them?
And so that's our partnership with the chamber.
Okay.
So the Chamber of Commerce does that. So Matt Parker and Colton Curitan.
Okay.
Matt's been there for 30-something years. Colton's been there for maybe 5 or 6. He's the heir apparent, I'm assuming, for that. And they're both tremendous with economic development.
Okay.
So they will go out, and they're known throughout the region. And so folks are looking for property, or they market property. So we've got multiple properties now that they have access to, and we've got a super site with 400 something acres. It's a jewel that they are marketing now to folks, and these will be $1 billion investments when folks come in. So they'll work through. The city can help some with different things, the state, and sometimes at the federal level, depending on what it is.
Okay.
And so they'll bring funds in. So the state's already helped us purchase that property. So we've got 440 acres sitting there with everything you need, with water, sewer, electric, gas, rail lines, 4-lane road. Not the 431 is a couple of miles away. So it's a rare animal to have that much land in one spot with all those features. A lot of times when you have that land, you're out in the middle of nowhere.
It seemed like kind of like something of a kind of an urban center of gravity has shifted over in this where you're closer where your district is. I don't understand why it is that it seems like it's, new home construction, new business that I see, new restaurants seems to be shifted on more on the west side. How would someone ever attract that to the east side? I mean,
I guess they look at the amount of housing, the density of housing, and the other things that are there, and they feed off those.
Okay.
So you've got 231 North Montgomery Highway, which is in my district,
right,
and then you got 84 West, which is not in my district,
right.
And so that area is growing like crazy as well.
Where our church is on the southern border of your district.
Yes, yeah. So you're here.
You're right.
Yes, and so I go a little bit down here to John D. Odom and River Edge, a couple subdivisions over there, and then I run out of territory, except headed to Dale County. So that's my new growth area is Dale County that's annexed into the city, kind of thing. So those two are growing, and you ask that, but it seems it's that way. I mean, you've got to be that first one to stick something out where there's not a proven.
There's not some central planner who just throwing darts at a dartboard says, I think more business and residents should go that way.
We'd love to do it.
Organically occurs.
It organically occurs, and it's I guess it's capitalism,
right?
Somebody brings the money in to do it. So we definitely have tried to incentivize folks in certain areas to go to. Some of that's downtown because it's so expensive to renovate an old historic or just old building. Nothing meets ADA. Nothing has sprinklers. Walls may have to be resupported.
Right.
They don't have, if they're food, they don't have grease traps. They don't have all that stuff that you have to do. So it'd be cheaper to build a building somewhere else.
Is there, one of my passions was GIS mapping and in archaeology, and you're trying to pinpoint the frequency of different occurrences within a space. And if one were to look at, say, geocode, all of the police and fire responses, would they find, where would they find that the higher crime areas does that overlay with the economic movement?
I don't know.
In terms of if it's lesser crime, if there's a lesser crime area, does that seem to kind of incentivize a lot of residential, industrial movement?
I mean, just common sense. I would probably say yes. I mean, I don't, know actual crime rates for each area of town. I know there's some that are higher than others. And some of that's just based off socioeconomics of certain areas. So, and when that happens, I guess, if you've got an area of higher socioeconomic and maybe a little less crime and things, I mean, that's probably where somebody would lean toward putting their investment versus some others. So, and of course, we want all areas, and that's my goal. And we've done that. We've invested throughout the city in areas where people would say, "Why are you putting money there?" Because I want every area to
Wiregrass
be
Park.
Safe. Wiregrass Park.
Wiregrass Park. I've never seen anybody in it.
Ripu Stadium. We just made an investment at Wiregrass Park.
Does anyone use it?
Yeah, there's a gymnasium there that's used. It's we have redone we've removed all the baseball fields and made it all multi-purpose to feed off of flag football. Which has got a turf field at the old Grandview Elementary School. So we've given that to Isaiah Reese, and he has brought NFL type things and major league sports and things. So goal is to have tournaments there, flag football tournaments there. And then the Wiregrass Park is just a few blocks away.
Driven down that road, I've just never seen anybody in it, and so I was wondering,
so that's the goal is for that flag football to grow and to do those things. And the gym, that's somewhat of a walking neighborhood sometimes, and so the gym's been there a long time.
Okay.
There's a little pool there that the whole area has got to be the pool leaks, so it's not used. And the tennis courts are not in great shape, so there will be a plan. There's some we're in the process of coming up with a new master plan for all our recreation facilities.
I have to admit
we try to figure out what to do where, because we've got things in all parts of town.
Right. Well, I have to admit that it's somewhat naturally occurs that your world is where you work and play all the time.
That's true.
And that there's more to the community, but you don't interact with that. You because that's not where my work is. That's not where all my shopping and everything is. And so just because I don't have unlimited mental real estate, I don't know about the things that don't affect me. And so I don't know. I think that's probably pretty common.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in the city commission meeting the other day, and as we were hearing from different commissioners, I think one commissioner from District 2 had mentioned that in his statement, he was very much wanting to decry and condemn violence in our community. I was sitting next to a city employee. I turned to him. I said, "Do you have any idea what he's talking about?" I have no clue. And I was really embarrassed to be that ignorant because I think I've tried to keep up with the news. No idea what he's talking about. And so there are districts or areas of Dothan where it just seems like it's a different world, in a sense. I think something going on that I never heard about. Do you know what he was referencing?
There's been just a few instances of gun violence and some things that a couple of neighborhoods or businesses or whatever. And I think he was of the opinion that if these continue to happen at the same places and the same whatever, that we need to look at that business. Are they causing the problem there? Okay. That's not always at a business. Sometimes it's just an area, but it's a tough thing. We've got a new crime center. We've got drones that go out when 911 calls are made to look at the area before the police and fire get there, just to make sure it's safe.
Right.
But stopping it ahead of time is tough.
Right.
Being everywhere at all times and trying to get people to use their free will the right way, and that doesn't seem to happen a lot. And it's how do you change that? So I think there was some frustration there because we've had multiple issues, and it'll come a couple here and there. Shots fired into a car, into a house, or things like that. Just senseless things, and those don't always happen in a lower economic area. It happens sometimes. It'll happen in any area.
Right, that's true.
And so it
can, it potentially can in any area, but in terms of probability, I mean, there's reason why economic movements take place, and business movements take place, because it seems to be less risky to them.
Yeah, and if it's your money, my money, we want to. That's our money, and you want to make a safe investment.
So, what are things that does there any ever way that which the city commission tries to look at, what we just talked about and go, how can that be addressed? Is it a business issue? Is it a policing issue? Is it, you've heard, my perspective is sometimes you'll hear people talk about food deserts where there's not acceptable food within a community. I like to talk about church deserts. It just seems as though an urban center is devoid of houses of worship, or just or underrepresented because you don't have these outposts of training the conscience in those ways.
It could be. I'm not familiar with actually. I mean, I see a lot of churches, a lot of small churches, in some of those communities. I think that you're referencing versus the big churches that you see out on some of the main thoroughfares. Or some that have been there a long time in neighborhoods that we have. So that I don't know enough.
I don't know
enough to say, but you would think a church would help.
I think so,
but also just because you go to church doesn't seem to
right. That's true.
Until you see things happen with, I know of people that went to my church and it just seems like, if you get down that wrong path,
that's true.
Then it's hard to come back sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
gosh.
And I don't know what the answer is to all that. I wish I knew, and I know the commissioner that spoke about that was
sociologists like to speculate whether sociologists like to speculate, there being socioeconomic causes for this that could somehow be addressed through economic opportunities. I always felt like that's, I think that veers too much into Marxist simplicity. People sin because they're sinners, not because of economic disparity.
right.
They just may sin differently.
Right. That's true. That's exactly right.
and so, but I am curious though as to the way in which Southern government tries to kind of go, listen, there are ways in which these things differ. Economic and residential movement, that center of gravity is moving away, and what's leaving this area behind? I always wonder if there's any way in which cities try to address that in some healthy fashion.
Well, the residential way, I'm not sure. No, the commercial business, retail, we do have some programs that we try to get folks to take advantage of to help them finance and support those businesses in those. We were doing it in the downtown area, and we've done it in some other areas that we're trying to get to redevelop. You don't need to do that going out 231 North or 84 West. That's doesn't need it's there. You don't need that. So
the marketplace is taking care of that just
fine. Takes care of it fine. Now the other where there's got to be some incentive, and some of those incentives we've got a sales tax a program that folks can share in some of that revenue as they generate meet certain goals, and they get to share in that sales tax that the city would normally get 4%. They can get 2%. It's only in certain areas. And we've got to meet some requirements and things, but it helps them get financing through banks to show that there's some potential revenues that can come in so that they can refurbish these. And most of them are refurbished buildings. Some can be new or it could be adding on to do it. And then you've got taking a so-so building and making it really nice. And then sharing in some of the revenue that we didn't have anyway. So I think it's a pretty good program. That's also run through the chamber.
There's I have driven through some neighborhoods in Dothan, and you see, it looks like the house has been abandoned for some time, and it's still there, standing, and it invokes what we know of the broken pane theory, if you're familiar with that. Broken pane theory is that, and this is something that came out of studying Detroit. That is that an existing building where that's been abandoned, and the moment that someone first throws a rock through a window, it's a broken glass pane. That seems to invite more people throwing rocks through the windows. And so it's called the broken pane theory because it seems as though misbehavior of destruction seemed to invite more of it.
It could. It could. So you see neighborhoods like that, and that's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's one of my issues that I keep bringing up. We've got rules on what the structure has to. It can't. It's got to have a roof. Can't have holes on it. Doors have to be shut. Windows shut, which could mean boarded, and which is not one of my favorite things. I think there should be a time frame on that. If you have a big storm, tornadoes and things, we've had that Hurricane Michael or whatever that came through. It's hard to find somebody to fix your house. It might take a while. So, to me, there should be a time limit on how long your windows can be boarded.
I see.
And your doors and things like that, because it leads to intrusion. And so, if there is a way to get in, then we can, contact the property owner. But basically, they just have to secure it. That doesn't help the next door neighbor in your broken pane where it's just giving around. So that's the thing. I think that I'd love to see something tougher.
Well, if there's derelict structures, then that there's the speculation is that possibly invites greater misbehavior. So Detroit bulldozed all those areas, all those, and they destroyed those, just to kind of like clean it up a little bit. Thank you for your time. I didn't want to take up too much of your time.
No, I appreciate it. This has been great. And one, I want to say I appreciate you coming to our meetings, attending our Dothan 101, which is 9 weeks of learning about Dothan and being involved. I know you've been here for a little while now,
just,
but you're taking
just over a year.
Yeah, so you're taking the time to educate yourself on what the city has to offer and to learn how to get things done without not just having to say, well, the traffic's bad here, or I can't get this doesn't work or that doesn't work. So you've learned how you can make contact with somebody, and we have a great website, Dothan.org, that just says report a concern, and you can get your street light fixed or your road pay patched or whatever needs to happen, or report a weed violation or about a house.
Right, exactly.
And so you can do that. I get a lot of those calls myself, and I'll put them in for folks. But my whole thing has been, you want to know why I did it, and I don't know why I did it, but now that I'm here, it is a joy to be able to help folks and to get something resolved. I take great pride in that. And some things take longer, and some I can't get done just because of what the rules are. That we have to deal with from either from us or through the legislature of what we can do.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I've been very passionate that in order to make a difference, someone has to actually engage these things and call up and ask God for wisdom to come about these. The solutions to these challenges are not always obvious. And so they have to pray that prayer of Solomon. God, give me wisdom with which to adjudicate the non-obvious choices.
Right.
And so I really appreciate you talking to me about this. Hopefully another time I'd like to talk about what have been some of your some of your proudest accomplishments while you've been commissioner for District 6. Yeah. And I didn't even get a chance to get to that level of detail.
Okay, that's fine. This has been great. It's just been the time's gone because it's great conversations, great questions, and
appreciate you talking.
And again, I really appreciate your interest in this city and trying to make it a better place.
I think that people of God are made wiser by having these conversations and being able to go, well, actual people do this things.
Right.
And so someone who might be my neighbor is able to take on this responsibility. I think that could inspire others as well.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.